Hello, my name is Alexander Edgeloni, and this is my book review for CSUS 200. For this project, I read the book Evicted by Matthew Desmond. The book Evicted begins with the main character, Arlene, and her two sons being evicted from their apartment during the winter in 2008. Throughout the course of the book, the family was evicted from their home 5 times. The preliminary theme of the book tells an emotional story of the housing crisis and eviction problem that we are facing. During the tale, the family moves into a home owned by a person named Sharana Tarver. Sharana is a landlord that rents homes to many other families as well. Many people living on her property struggle with either paying rent, drug addiction, violent relationships, with something else, or with one or more of these things. Sharana is a strict landlord that also cares a lot about her tenants. She is strict because she has priorities of her own and struggles with balancing empathy for those she houses and her own personal interests. The characters living in this building understand how difficult it is to keep a stable home and often do what they can to help out a neighbor. The book also illustrates stories about many other people that get evicted throughout the novel. The theme and moral of the book reflects on the significance for an individual to have a home. It can be inferred within the story that if an individual does not have a safe place to keep their family, their whole lives revolve around this frustration and cannot focus on any other aspects of being, leading to a continuous rhythm of failure, distress, sadness, and poverty. The author of this book uses the last section of the novel to describe his take on how housing should operate. He notably states something about the housing voucher system, which he believes would ultimately solve many problems that these characters were facing throughout their lives. I found the perspectives of this book to be quite interesting. It is sad that individuals struggle to hold a stable home for themselves and their family to live in. I can only imagine how detrimental not having a safe place to live can be on a person's ego and psyche. If an individual does not have a place to live, they must spend all of their time, energy, resources on attaining a home, which inhibits their ability to grow, better themselves, plan for the future, and be happy. There is a common perspective where people automatically associate homeless individuals to being poor and lazy. After reading through this book, I found that is not always the case. There could be a plethora of factors in play that affect an individual's ability to acquire a home for themselves, and it is ignorant to assume somebody's position and their relation to what they have and do not have without knowing the deeper reason behind what is causing them to incur their situation. Right now, in my life, I am balancing getting an education, finding a career, making and growing friendships, creating a startup, exercising, enjoying life, and much more. I am able to do all of these things because I have a safe place that I can call home, as well as everyone that I care about. I'm not consistently worried about paying bills and making sure my housing situation is stable. And if I was, I'm sure that burden would eat at me so much to the point where I couldn't balance the rest of my life. After reading this book, my thoughts on the topic have definitely changed, and even a few more perspectives on life have been introduced into my mind, which I will carry with me as I progress. Besides knowing that there exists homeless people, I really didn't have any thoughts on the topic beforehand. The most basic reaction I would have when faced with seeing a homeless person is to make assumptions about who they are and why they're in this situation, without fully understanding that person's background, whether it be functionally or emotionally. This perspective may influence my future behaviors when a situation with a similar theme arises. Furthermore, even though this was a very emotionally moving and realistic story regarding the hardships that people face in this malevolent world we live in, I would most likely not recommend this book, though it did shed light on a lot of interesting and important topics and ideas. The reason I wouldn't recommend this book is mainly because the sheer length of this book. It was well over 300 pages, and I personally read very slowly. And if I wanted someone to understand the plot and moral of the story, I feel like it could be achieved much quicker through other methods and not through reading this fictional novel. I've read far more interesting books in the past that I've enjoyed a lot more than this one, and I would recommend those books in particular before, just because there are a lot of good books out there. In conclusion, I found this book to be mildly interesting, but particularly having more interesting themes and concepts embedded within the story. I do not feel that reading this novel was necessary for me to attain these ideas, yet it is how I came to understand them, and I'm glad that I did. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate it.